Welcome to Scripps News Live. I'm Carolyn Bruck.
And I'm Jay Struberg. Another Trump kid is on the stand in the Trump Organization civil trial in New York.
Donald Trump's daughter, Ivanka Trump, is on the stand testifying against her father and her brothers. Now, she's not charged in this case, but it didn't stop her from attempting to avoid testifying, though clearly it didn't work because she's been on the stand trying to distance herself from her father's company. The prosecution is expected to rest once they're done questioning Ivanka.
Former federal prosecutor and president of West Coast Trial Lawyers, Neama Rahmani, joins us now to discuss. Neama, thank you so much for your time. I first want to get your reaction to Ivanka's day in court. It went quite differently than the day her father had, who was known to have some outbursts, got into it with the judge a little bit. Ivanka, a little more mild manner, but her testimony could still be important here.
Oh, very different from Donald Trump's testimony from Monday. She really stuck to the script that her siblings, Don Jr. and Eric, started, last week, really, and that was to distance themselves from the company. And she really took it a step further because, unlike her brothers, she's not a party in the case. She's just a witness. Her conduct falls outside the statute of limitations. So the two ways that her testimony was a little bit different from Eric and Jr. was that she was obviously more poised, more polite. She's not, the aggressive attack dog that the other two are on the cable news networks. And the other big difference was there were a lot of I don't recalls today, even when she was presented with documents and emails with her name on it. Again, you can contrast that with some of the other testimony that we heard earlier this week and last.
Certainly a difficult position to be in, right, for a daughter to have to testify against her father and her brothers. Prosecution is saying after they're done questioning Ivanka, they're done. They're going to rest their case. Do you think they did enough?
I think they did, and they did enough, frankly, before trial. Judge Engoron granted partial summary judgment and ruled that the financial statements were actually fraudulent. Now, I think the government, the state of New York, has actually done a good job proving damages. We had experts that have testified that damages well exceeded $100 million, as well as proving some of the knowledge and intent required for some, but not all of the claims. And here's the problem with the children's testimony. I understand how you don't want to have anything to do with this case, but you really needed someone that was going to stand up and justify these valuations, say they weren't inflated. And really the only person that's done that so far is Donald Trump. Now, of course, the defense, they have a witness list of more than 100 people. I don't expect them to call more than 100 witnesses, but they're going to need some experts that are going to have to come and really substantiate these valuations.
Speaking of that defense, do you expect Donald Trump to be back on the stand?
Probably not. I think he got out what he needed to say. I mean, his argument was that, look, this is the Trump brand. I mean, you can't just look at this in a vacuum. It's not like if you or I were selling a property. These are trophy properties. So that was sort of one argument. And the other was him getting into a little bit of the weeds and the substance. But you're going to need appraisers. You're going to need accountants. You're going to need real estate experts that are going to have to come in and actually value these properties. And the defense better have them lined up and ready to go. They have any chance of getting the judge to change his mind on his decision that all this was fraudulent.
The former president, he took the stand on Monday, and as we know, there were fireworks in that courtroom. He started criticizing the judge, muttering things under his breath, at one point being very direct about his distaste for what was going on. Have you ever seen something like this before? I guess it could be taken as a strategy. What's your take on all this? Is it a good strategy for Donald Trump to do that?
I've never seen anything like this. And frankly, any other litigant in any case in this country would have been held in contempt. I got to be a little bit critical of the judge. Didn't really control this courtroom and was telling Trump's lawyers to control him when really that's the judge's job. But if you're talking about Trump's strategy, it may be a good one, at least politically. We know that his base loved it. It's probably going to help him fundraise, may even get him a boost in the polls. And, with respect to undecided voters, frankly, a lot of them like a fighter in the Oval Office. And they believe that Trump is a great business person, and that's why they support him. So I think he was speaking to folks outside the courtroom. Now, with respect to the legal strategy, he probably thought, well, look, I've already lost. This judge hasn't made up his mind. Maybe I can get under his skin. Maybe I can raise some potential issues on appeal because the appellate courts in New York have a little bit been a little bit more friendly to Donald Trump and his family than the judge in this case.
Just to be clear here, do you believe the judge is treating Trump differently here, despite the issues that they have with each other, because he is a former president of the United States?
I do. I believe there's a hesitation to hold a former president in contempt. Trump has clearly violated the judge's orders. The judge himself found Trump to be not credible and a liar. And what did the judge do? Fine him $5,000, fine him $10,000. That's not even a slap on the wrist for the former president. That's walking around money. So, if you're going to have an order, you actually have to impose it. And unfortunately, the judge in this case, he's been all bark, no bite.
And just lastly, Trump's defense, the banks got paid, no one got hurt. What do you make of that?
Unfortunately, that's not a defense, because when you're talking about fraud, it doesn't necessarily have to be a loss to the victim if there's a benefit to the fraudster. So on one hand, the judge has already rejected that argument. So it doesn't matter if you paid your debt on time and there was no default. The banks could have charged more and would have charged more interest if the loans weren't secured by property that was valued at X amount. If it was secured by less, you'd have to pay more, number one. And there were experts that testified in the state's case that the actual loss in interest payments to the banks was approximately $168 million, if I recall correctly. So I think that's a loser argument for Donald Trump and the defense team.
Thanks so much for your insights. Neama Rahmani, this is going to be interesting just to see how this all plays out, that's for sure.
Thanks, sir.